Hello, this is Bill Scheid from Applied Finance Research, and in this video we're going to compare the calculation methodologies of the first generation versus the second generation BMR monthly systems. So let's start off by talking about the first generation monthly system calculation methodology. This is the methodology that was first used in the original BMR systems as taught by Dr. Ken Long at the Tharp Institute. These calculation methodologies leverage momentum, they are value-based, and they use a weight and then rank methodology. We're going to get into some mathematical examples of that in just a second. The process involves 3 steps. First, we weight the return values directly. We don't rank them, we just weight the values directly. Using the ranks is what we're going to get into when we look at second generation methodology. We are going to rank each symbol by its composite value, and then we're going to select the highest composite values. Now, I know that can sound a little abstract, so let's jump right into a mathematical example. In this example, we are using a hypothetical system that assigns a 30% weighting to the 6-month return of each symbol and a 70% weighting assigned to the 3-month return of each symbol. Now, in this example, we are hypothesizing that we have 3 symbols, AAA, BBB, and CCC. We have a 6-month total return for each of them, and we have a 3-month total return for each of them. Now, to calculate our methodologies, the math is going to look like this. Symbol AAA has a 6-month total return of 7%, we see that here, and a 3-month total return of 17%. Now, because we're weighting these 30-70, the math is going to look like 0.3 times 0.07, so that's our 30% return times our 30% weighting versus our 6-month 7% return. And then we're going to add 0.7 times 0.17, so that is our 70% weighting times our 17% 3-month return, and we get a composite value of 0.140. We're going to repeat that same math for all 3 symbols, and we notice that symbol BBB has the highest composite value of 0.149. So what that means is the result of these calculations, BBB comes out on top because it has the highest weighted value. Now, what are the characteristics of this calculation methodology? Well, first of all, it preserves the magnitude differences between the symbols. It means that extreme values will have a proportional impact, and so this calculation methodology tends to be more sensitive to outliers. So that's the first generation methodology. Now let's jump into the second generation methodology. So the features here are that this is what is used in etfreplay.com and in EdgeRater, which are both monthly system backtesting tools. The second generation methodology leverages both momentum and relative strength. So not just momentum, but now we're adding a relative strength component. This is more rank-based than values-based, and it uses a rank then weight methodology instead of weight then rank. And the process is also 3 steps long. We rank the symbols by each return value independently. We weight the ranks, and then we select the lowest composite ranks. Again, that could sound a little bit abstract, so let's do another math example. So here we have the same system with a 30% weighting on a 6-month return and a 70% weighting on the 3-month return. We have our same 3 symbols, and we have the exact same 6-month total return and 3-month total return values for these symbols. So the math will now look like this. The first thing we are going to do is assign ranks to each of the symbols based on their 6-month return. So we're going to see that BBB gets the rank of number 1 because it has the highest 6-month total return at 24%. AAA is going to come in second with a 7% return, and CCC is going to come in third with a 6% return. We're then going to assign ranks to the 3-month returns, and we're going to see that AAA is ranked number 1 because it has a 17% return. BBB is ranked number 2 because it has an 11% return, and CCC is ranked 3rd with a 5% return. Now, to calculate the composite values, what we're going to do is multiply the weighting by the rank. So in this example for AAA, we're going to multiply 0.3 times 2 and 0.7 times 1, and that's going to give us a composite value of 1.3. We're going to repeat that same math for all 3 symbols, and now what we're going to do is choose the symbol with the lowest composite value. And so the result here is that AAA wins because it has the lowest composite value. Now, what are the characteristics of this calculation methodology? It tends to compress outlier impact, because if we had a return of 100%, it would get rank number 1, which gives it the same gap as any other rank. This method of calculation is also a little bit more extreme when symbols, it's more stable when symbols have extreme values, and it treats all rank differences equally, so we end up with balanced performers often winning out over extreme outliers. Now, there's a key insight that comes out of the example that we used, and the insight is that with the same weights, that 30% weighting and 70% weighting, the second generation methodology picks AAA, which is a balanced performer, while the first generation picks BBB, and basically that's because the extreme outlier in the return value 1, which is the 6-month look back, overcomes the poor / mediocre return of the 3-month look back. So the bottom line question is, which should you use? Well, when you want outlier protection and stable rankings, the second generation calculation methodology is going to tend to favor that. When magnitude matters and you want outliers to have a full impact, the first generation methodology is going to tend to favor that. So there is no right or wrong. It's apples to oranges, and it's really a question of what fits you best as a trader, what fits you best as an investor. This is Bill Scheid from Applied Finance Research. Thank you very much for watching, and happy investing.